What's up, everybody? Wednesday night, time for another episode of Mythic Conversations. Should be a quiet night tonight. Not much to talk about, right? Nothing really going on in the world of Mythic Legions. Hey, of course not. That's not true at all. There's a ton going on, including the Exodus sale. Oh my goodness, I'm sure we're going to talk about that tonight. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions, some of which I might actually even be able to answer. Who knows? We'll see. Should be fun too. I've got some cool stuff to show tonight. If you saw my post today, talking about the turtle, the Akupara figures that I helped bring to life. I'm going to talk about them tonight. I got a bunch of cool stuff on the table behind me. These cool frog-looking Lockwago figures. And I've got some stuff from Planetary Dog Toys. Kind of a little mix of things tonight because I know there's going to be a fair amount of conversation and questions. I kind of brought it back to do another episode of kind of that whole What's on the Desk Wednesday type of theme. Some things I worked on today, some things I've been working on. Should be a lot of fun. So without further ado, everyone jumping on. Tony, Anthony, Greg, Christopher, Rosedale. Thank you all so much for joining. Tony, thank you for telling me that you like the turtle. Chris as well. Let's get this thing started like we do every week. What do you say? Welcome to Mythic Conversations. If you're joining or watching for the first time and you don't know who I am, my name is Jeremy Gerard. I'm a Mythic Legions collector and customizer, as you can see behind me. I also have the distinct privilege of working as the digital marketing manager for Four Horsemen Studios. What that means is all the content that you see at sourcehorseman.com, I help bring to you. And I'm the one that is behind the new store, horseman.com, as well, which, as I said, we're probably going to talk a little bit about tonight. If you want to follow more of my work, you want to see some of the customs that I'm posting, you can check me out online. My Instagram is @MythicCustoms, all one word. Check out my website as well, which I actually haven't updated in a little while. I've been busy with some other stuff, but I'll get back to it. But there's still a ton of stuff on the website, ton of customs, recipes, photos. That is www.mythiccustoms.com. Of course, we also have this channel. Every Wednesday night, we are here at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, live for Mythic Conversations. It's called Conversations because it's a back and forth. There is a chat window here. If you have questions along the evening, which I'm sure you will tonight, I'm sure there's going to be stuff to talk about. Hit me up in the chat. I will do my best to answer those questions throughout the course of the evening. If you're not joining live, if you are catching this on replay, thank you very much for that as well. I get a ton of my views. The bulk of my views actually come on replay. So thank you to everyone that digs this and enjoys it. So as I said, every week we start this with Mythic Legions news, and I jokingly said, hey, there's no news to talk about tonight, but of course that is not true at all. Exodus. So Saturday, Cornboy dropped that really cryptic kind of teaser about Exodus, and there was some stuff in there about the old store horseman. It was a fun little way of him kind of trying to get people excited and set the stage. And already on Saturday when he posted it in this weekend, there was a lot of speculation, which, by the way, everyone that's been on the Mythic Legion Cabal and so forth, speculating on what Exodus is, thank you. You've given me a ton of fun things to read over the last few days. It's actually been really cool to read your speculation. And there's, a lot of people that get pieces of it right. There's some people that are wildly off base. But right away, Exodus, there was a lot of people that thought it was a new wave because it sounds like a wave, right? When you look at the different names, Mythic Legion's Exodus sounds like that could be a new wave. So there was a bunch of people that were speculating that, hey, this must be the new series. But then there were a fair amount of people that were thinking, I wonder if this is an in-stock sale. And a lot of people were, speculating that if it was an in-stock sale, it'll probably be stuff from like, I don't know, Siege of Bjorngar and Wasteland. And, people were like, oh, they probably had some extra like Thalon Frostbow figures. It'll probably be that. It'll be a mix of some figures they have left over. So that was a lot of speculation. Then, we've been working, because part of this is the new storehorseman.com. So we've been working on that for months now. It's been a process trying to get everything ready. And, so I was talking to Cornboy Tuesday, and I was like, hey, you put out that cryptic message. When are you going to announce everything that's going on? Because I've got some stuff I need to do. I need to make the new store live. I don't want to do that because people are going to see the big message that says warehouse sale. I don't want to do that until you put that out there. So he put that out yesterday, late last night. And it was another cryptic message. And at the bottom, it just kind of said, yeah, it's a warehouse sale, but it's a big one, which was funny because today I was like, hey, that was really, really cool, but we should actually probably give them some logistics. Like we should tell them legitimately like, hey, it's the new Store Horseman because it's a new site and it's a new platform. It's not 3D card at Shopify. All of their account information didn't port over. So they've got to create new accounts and all that. So he did that today. We posted that on the website as well, all those logistics. And, judging by the number of people that went in and created new member accounts, the message was definitely getting out there. There is a new platform. I wish I could guarantee that there won't be any problems with the new website, but absolutely cannot guarantee that. I've been doing this for a long time, involved in web design, and the reality is anytime you take a website that goes from essentially no traffic and then all of a sudden at a drop of a hat, there's, a few thousand people hitting refresh, waiting for those sale items to go live, that is absolutely taxing on a server. That being said, we have some safeguards in place. We do believe that this is going to perform better. I say that. I even look at a large company like Mezco. Mezco last week did, for Batman Day, they did their sale, and it, it was like a Sovereign Shadow Batman or something. And even a big company, or a bigger company, I should say. Mezco's not a huge company. They're not like Hasbro. But even a larger company like Mezco, their website crashes as well. So you never know what to expect. Obviously, we did a lot of testing. You can't test an in-stock sale. And you certainly can't test a sale like Exodus, because Exodus is going to be insane. Absolutely insane. So a lot of people have been asking what is going to be included. And I have some answers for you. So I reached out to Corin Boy and I said, hey, I'm doing my show tonight. What can I say? Because I don't want to say something I'm not supposed to. The reality is all that speculation about it's going to be figures from Wasteland and Siege, that is wrong. It is not those figures. Some of those figures may be included. It is actually figures that cover the entire gamut of the line. Now, not everything is available. This is a warehouse sale. So these are not, this is what was left over in the warehouse from all of these years. There are figures that stretch all the way back to Mythic Legions 1.0 that are going to be available. The trick here is there's not big quantities. This is not the kind of sale, even previous in-stock sales. You talk about in-stock sales being crazy. Well, in the past, in-stock sales were like, hey, we did the pre-order. We ordered a bunch of extras to sell as part of an in-stock. This isn't even that. Like, this is, hey, we found one of this figure. We found 2 of this figure. We found 10 of this figure, whatever. That is what's going to be for sale. So I tell people that because I definitely think that you should set some expectations going in. Like, I saw someone post, because there is a limit. So for the first hour, it's a limit of 1 of any character per person. And I saw some people saying, like, oh, does that mean I'll be able to grab one of each? Absolutely not. Unless you're magic, no, you will not be able to. It's physically not going to be possible. Stuff is going to sell out. What I'm suggesting here to all of you is know what you want. Every figure is available, and it's what is going to be available specifically is not being revealed until sale time. But my suggestion to you is pick one or two figures you really, really want and go in and buy those. Try to grab those, get it in your cart, and check out. Because you don't know how many there are. And I am telling you that if you put something in your cart, because the site does not, if you put something in your cart, it doesn't reserve it. It's not like, hey, it's not like physically pulling it off a shelf. If you go to a toy store, you physically pull something off a shelf, it is in your hands. Even though you haven't checked out yet, it is in your possession. That is not how this works. Because there are limited numbers, multiple people could put it in the cart, and it is honestly whomever checks out with it first. So I know a lot of people freak out about carjacking. It is absolutely inevitable that is going to happen. Like Friday night, there is going to be a sea of people who are butthurt, upset because they got carjacked. But there's also going to be a handful of people, more than a handful. There's going to be plenty of people that are like, oh my goodness, I just scored this figure for $35. That is absolutely insane. So there's going to be a mix of both. So know what you're getting into. This sale is as it is. These are not like in the past. Obviously, if you got a figure and there was a problem, no one's anticipating problems with these figures, but certainly if something were to happen, like you got a figure and it was missing an accessory or it had two left feet or something, what you get is what you get. These are what is left that they found as part of the warehouse move. These were all been uncovered. This is the final inventory of this stuff. So that's what you got to know. So that's my suggestion. I'm going to read a couple comments. Yeah. Joe, thank you very much. Any attempted improvement is welcome for the store. Yeah, I do definitely think it's going to be a better experience. No secret codes, my man. So that is what I would suggest. So, again, it is going to be a mix of things. There's a lot of figures available. They're not a quantity. There's a variety. There's a large variety. And, I even think back, it's funny because you know what sale I remember? What in-stock sale and actually what test shot sale I remember not being painful was Advent of Decay. Advent of Decay, for all of the painful sales we've had throughout the time, Advent of Decay was not a crazy bad sale, including the test shot. So when they did the Advent of Decay test shot sale, that was really interesting because they were very limited still. They were limited to, I believe, still 10 pieces of each, but they had so many figures. There was 45 different characters or whatever it was for Advent that when you logged on to that sale for the test shots, it's not like everyone was going after like 5 figures or even 8 or 10 figures. There was such a variety that I remember grabbing. I got 5 test shots from that test shot sale. And I even had a few more in my cart that I was sitting there because I checked out and I was sitting there like, should I get these few more as a second order? And I said, nah, I'm not going to. And I think it was because of the quantity. So that is one of the things that I will suggest because there is a quantity of figures available. That's going to help. Obviously some of the biggies that are going to be in there, people are going to be going after those. Those are going to be like chum in the water, but hey, it's a fun experience. Joe, is this sale shipping from New Jersey or Utah? Anthony, please say New Jersey. Please say New Jersey. It is shipping from New Jersey. These are literally in the New Jersey warehouse. So these are pieces And I saw some people asking, is Megalopolis shipping these? This is not, a change in the way they're working. These are just already in New Jersey. So these are all pieces that, when they would do shows like ToyCon New Jersey or was it ZoloCon, when they would go to those shows and they would take a quantity of figures, obviously they don't sell everything at the show. There are some left over. There's also just stuff that they hold back to use for customer service requests in different things. So these are all just stuff that's been lying around the studio. I will tell you that I can't believe this much stuff was lying around the studio. It's absolutely insane, but it's awesome. So that's where this comes from. So it's already in New Jersey. And the other aspect of that, because I see a bunch of people saying, yeah, ship it from New Jersey, sweet. Be careful what you wish for, because keep in mind that when it ships from Megalopolis, they've got a whole team and a whole process over there. Shipping from New Jersey, I think we sometimes tend to forget what some of the challenges were previously, and why they made the move to Megalopolis. This is going to be a challenge because they don't have the kind of shipping operation. I mean, even before COVID, they didn't have the kind of shipping operation in New Jersey that they have out at Megalopolis. So, Chris from Four Horsemen Studios, definitely bear with him. He's going to do his best to get these orders out as quickly as he can, but bear with him. That's another good thing to point out. There is no combined shipping on this. So if you take my advice and you grab a figure, throw it in your cart and check out quickly, and then you go back in to add more figures, those are separate orders. They are going to ship separately. You are going to get charged shipping on each individual one. So there is no combining shipping. If you want to sit there and fill up your cart and try to check out all at once, that's your prerogative. As I've told you, because of these limited quantities, expect that by the time you get to checkout, there's going to be a message telling you that, hey, I'm sorry, some of the stuff in your cart is no longer available. What else? So before we move on, if there's any other questions around the Exodus sale, hit me up and I'll see if I can answer those. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. The bottom line is it's going to be a fun sale. If you're new to the line and you're like, I want to come in and get 30 figures, this is not the sale to do that for. There are some figures certainly that have higher quantities that will, probably be available after that first hour when the limits get lifted and you can add more. But ultimately, to me, and I've always thought this about in-stock sales, by the way, not just this particular unique one. I've always said that in-stock sales are an opportunity to get one or two figures that you maybe slept on a little bit, or you bought one and then realized it's a great custom base and you wish you would have had an extra one. That's what in-stock is good for. And I've always had really good luck with in-stock sales because that's the way I approach it. I approach it and I'm just trying to cherry pick and get a few specific pieces that I want. I'm not trying to actually complete a wave. So if you approach it that way, if you set your expectations that, hey, if I get some stuff, cool. If not, it was fun to be part of the bloodbath. Maybe it'll all go well. But I will certainly be, I'm like excited and anxious for it because it's been a project that I've been working on for a while. So I am excited to see it go out there. It's funny because I originally had suggested, hey, maybe we should launch the new store like for the Shadow Equidron sale, because that's a very easy sale to do. It's a pre-order sale. That I figured that'll be a good test of the new system. The timing just didn't work out. So instead, we're going to stress test the new store in the most extreme way possible, right? Four Horsemen Studios, go big or go home. Exodus sale is going to be a blast. So Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you haven't gone to storehorseman.com yet, check it out. There's nothing there. It's funny. So today, because the platform, none of the products are turned on right now. They're all off. And if you don't have any products in your store, the cart just default shows a bunch of garbage, like it was like illustrations of like hats and glasses and stupid stuff. I mean, it just defaults to like $19.99. That's the price. So there was all these people speculating, oh my goodness, is this a sale? Like, is everything going to be $20? Like, they thought that those were all placeholders for the actual products. So I've been back and forth today. I've been on with the studio, and at one point they were like, hey, everyone's really confused. Can you change the price on those? And I was like, actually, I can't change the price. It's a stupid default that it puts there, but I can put just a product in called coming soon at $35, because that is the price. A lot of people are asking, what are the prices going to be? Actually, Amy's asking me right here, will there be any deluxe figures, ones that were over 35? So Amy, I cannot tell you exactly what there's going to be. There are figures from every series, across the board, and there's all different kinds. There's builders, there's regular figures, deluxe. There's everything. You're going to have a nice range of them. People have asked about prices. Yeah, prices are going to be the normal prices. So Legion builders are like $22. Regular figures are $35. Deluxe figures are I don't know, 50 or 52 or whatever they were. So there's going to be that range. This is what you paid back in the day. So the only way to get them cheaper is if you actually back the Kickstarter. If you backed the Kickstarter and got them through that, they were a little bit cheaper. So that's what I've got for Exodus. Can I explain the one figure limit? Yeah. So any character that's there, you can't buy more than one of for the first hour. So if you see a figure, and I'm not going to name a figure, you thought you were going to catch me. You thought I was going to say, like, if you add X figure. No. If you add a certain figure and say it's a builder and you're like, it would be awesome to have 5 of that figure. You can't do that in the first hour. We put this in place specifically to try to be equitable to everybody. So, instead of one person getting 5 of a character, it's cool if, you spread the love. Because again, remember, during pre-orders, buy as many as you want. Buy 500 of a figure. Who cares? During pre-orders, they encourage you to stock up and to build your legions. But during a sale like this, they do really want to spread the love. They'd rather see a lot of people get a little something that's really going to be kind of a gem, something really cool they were hoping for their collection, rather than just a few people really, really make out. But at the same time, I mean, they're doing the sale to move products. So the first hour, 1 per person. So if you see a cool figure and you put more than one of it in your cart, you won't be allowed to purchase that. So 1 per person. If the system does allow you to check out, your order will be reversed and you could just have your order canceled. So don't try to game the system. 1 per person. Be fair. The Mythic Legions community is by far the most amazing community. So incredibly helpful. They're asking you, please honor this request. You're going to get your stuff canceled if you don't anyway, but just don't even go there. 1 per person. So hopefully that explained it to you. A couple people like Drew and Adrian saying they came in late. No problem. You didn't miss anything. We weren't talking about the Exodus sale. I didn't just tell everything that's going to be available. I didn't just do that. Seriously, I didn't do that, but I did say that it's going to be figures stretching all the way back to Mythic Legions 1.0. They're going to have an incredibly cool range of stuff to choose from. It will be crazy. I've seen some people saying like, hey, this is my first time doing an in-stock sale. What should I know? What time should I get in there? 9 p.m. It starts at 9 p.m. Be in there at 9 p.m. because that is when it's going down. Other than that, what is going on? So, like I say every week, and by the way, throughout the course of the night, I'm sure there'll be some other questions. We'll talk about the stuff behind me, but we'll probably end the show. If you have more questions about Exodus, if more people jump on, I'll talk more about it. 3D companies. So that's become obviously a big part of the show every single week. I mean, the stuff we're looking at tonight is all from some 3D companies. Lot of stuff going on. So in addition to the Exodus sale, there's a lot of stuff going on. My Action Figure Customs, they just added a whole slew of the Halloween sale, the items to their their sale to stack that on top of what they were offering for, like, in, I guess it's the dwarf sale. I guess that's what they're calling it. A lot of cool stuff from like Matt O'Toole. Bunch of re-releases. I know my buddy Zombie 13. He's got some really cool stuff in this. Like the pumpkin heads, the skullkin. It's like a pumpkin skull. Like the Jack pumpkin head. He's got some really cool stuff. I have them in my cases behind me. The ones that he had actually cast and painted originally. So these are. Those original casts have all been translated digitally now, so they can be 3D printed. So those are all available. Planetary Dog Toys, they're actually going on pause as of Saturday. So I've actually got some Planetary Dog Toy stuff behind me that just came in this week that so cool. I painted them up today. I brought them to show just because I was so excited about them. Wonderful stuff, Saba and Julie. I talk about them all the time. I can't speak more highly of them. They're awesome artists, but they are taking a break, which is not unprecedented. They've done this before. The nature of their store is because they're evergreen. And if you're not familiar with that term, by the way, evergreen just means always in stock. It's always available. So they're the only 3D company right now, other than like Shapeways, that is doing that. Everybody else does limited sales. And Planetary Dog Toys, they're just like, hey, they're available all the time. There's obviously challenges with that. It's great as a fan because you don't feel that sense of I got to jump in here and get it right now or I may miss out. Obviously, on the side of Planetary, I can only imagine that is really, really challenging because orders, it's not like you have an order period, you know it's ordered, you go produce that. But like they did in the past, they did take a break before just to catch up on some old orders, to kind of set some things right. In this particular case, Saba said that it's also a tax issue where they're switching over from one tax quarter to another. And it's easier for them if there's no sales during that transition. But long story short, as of any orders placed on Planetary Dog Toys, up until the 25th, they said will be fulfilled like normal, but they're taking an indefinite break after the 25th, so they haven't announced when they will be back. So just be aware of that. But they will be back, I'm sure, and they'll have all the cool products. Wolf King, that's a big part of what we're going to talk about tonight. As you know, if you watch the show, I get to do some projects with Wolf King. Len, who runs Wolf King Customs, is a good friend of mine. And, the relationship that started out with him just producing some parts for me, he is now, really a good friend, and I'm doing more parts. So I got the itch after doing the Kitsune part. I got the itch to do more. And I've been doing more. And so tonight, one of the things we're going to look at is some new parts that I helped put together, that I helped create in these turtle parts. I've also got some of these frog parts that he calls the lock woggles, which are actually a project that he had done or conceived a long time ago before I ever came into the picture at all. They're finally seeing the light of day, so I'll talk a little bit about those as well in their upcoming sneak peek sale. So I've got some info on that. Additionally, my good buddy Anthony Hausiel with the Toy Forge, last Saturday they released the first of the Dwarves of Canning Valley. I'm not going to say the character's name because I'm sure I'm going to butcher it. But my understanding is there are still a very limited amount of those dwarves left, and he's already working on some new stuff. He's got some other stuff there in the shop as well, including, I know, at least one really cool dwarf head that is evergreen. So I know a couple people last week when I mentioned the Toy Forge, they were like, oh, I don't know where to find it. He doesn't have a website yet. He's working on that. But if you go to Facebook and you just do a search for the Toy Forge, or even if you look up Anthony Hausiel, like in the Mythic Legions Cabal, you will absolutely be able to find it. And he just commented here that the Belquid heads are still available. So check that out as well. So let's talk a little bit about these turtles here. So if you checked out today, let me just read this comment here. Oh, yeah. Okay. So someone's answering a question that I answered a few minutes ago. If you checked out my Instagram today, as well as I posted on the Cabal, I posted this character here, this cool snapping turtle type custom. And I called this an Akupara. So this is a series that I kind of conceived of, and it's interesting. So the word Akupara, that's the name that I've given to this race, this kind of like turtle humanoid race. Akupara in mythology is the world turtle. So it's this concept that the entire world is held on the back of a turtle. And there's been a lot of different turtles in different mythology, but I really liked that name, Akupara. And to me, I thought it worked well as the name of a race. So I like that idea. I came up with this in large part because of that shell. So if you've seen this shell, and I should actually say it was more this shell. So this green turtle shell shield came with the Dark Forces weapons pack as part of the Advent of Decay wave. And I always thought it was really, really cool. You know, even before those figures were in hand, they showed that shield on the back of a Nubnik Goblin figure. And I immediately wanted a turtle. The minute I saw that on the back of a Goblin, I said, I want a turtle character. That'd be really, really cool. So after the Kitsune Fox heads that I worked on with Walter DeMarco of Mass Customs, and those are the first project that I brought to Len that he printed for me personally, and then, you know, asked if he could sell them, and I said absolutely. That's really what started this whole kind of Wolf King Customs relationship. Because as I've said before, Len had planned on doing a shop before I ever got involved. You know, my involvement initially was just, hey, you're going to print these heads for me. Yeah, I'll agree to paint some up for you to sell. And then I got the itch, and I had so much fun doing it. Being someone who's creative, creating all these customs, having the ability to conceive something. And, you know, because for years when I want to make a custom, I say, okay, I want to make this fox custom. I got to go try to find a fox head to use for this vision that I have. And that's how the Kitsune started. I couldn't find a fox head, so I finally found someone to make it for me. And now that those floodgates are open, I'm really having a blast doing that. And that's what happened with the turtles. Even though there's tons of turtle toys out there, I didn't want to make a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. I've done that before, actually. I made a kind of bog goblin and a regular goblin into almost like a Donatello type character for my friend Peter McCarthy. Gave that as a gift, but I wanted to make a turtle like this. So actually, these parts were the second project I ever worked on. Even though the second project of mine that ever got released was the Badgerines, the kind of Badger and Wolverine heads with the hand claws, those were actually developed after the turtles. In part because when I first got the turtle parts in, there was some development that needed to be done on it. There were some tweaks that needed to happen. So while those tweaks were happening, I come up with the idea to do the Badgerines, and Walter DeMarco did those as well. And he produced them so quickly, and like right out of the gate, they were ready to go. There was no changes needed on them. So those ended up getting put into production through Wolf King Customs before the turtles ever came out. Now, originally, when I conceived this, it wasn't just this one turtle. It was a number of parts. So I will show here the parts we have. So this like snapping turtle style head. And actually in the original kind of storyline that I wrote, this is the bad character. This is the evil character. And then we've also got these awesome turtle feet, which I think are the absolute highlight of this character. These turtle feet, they look so cool on this, but dude, put these on a bog goblin. Oh, they looked perfect on a bog goblin. They've got a similar scale type pattern. They work wonderfully. They also work really, really cool with the dragon style heads that Planetary Dog Toys have done. I've used a couple of those heads, and if you don't want your dragon, draconian or like Dragon Warrior, was it Dragonborn? The D&D race is called Dragonborn. If you don't want your Dragonborn warrior to have like armored feet, these turtle style feet work really, really well. I absolutely love them. So I conceived that. There was actually a couple different heads, the feet, and there was a series of weapons. So I conceived of 4 different weapons, because even though I said I didn't want to make Ninja Turtles, I was like, how cool would it be though if you could kind of make Ninja Turtles with these? So there were 4 different weapons, one of which is this gigantic hook weapon. So I wanted all the weapons. Turtles are very, very important in like Hawaiian and Polynesian culture. When I went to Hawaii a number of years ago, there was a lot of turtles in that culture. Very, very important. And I thought it would be really cool to base all of the weapons for these characters on like Polynesian style weapons. So integrate things like shark teeth and wood and stuff like that. You can see that this looks like there's all these shark teeth on it with kind of like a leather type lacing that goes through it. And these parts are super cool because not only this, so this is on a Gonks body, right? And it's funny because literally months ago, I posted something. I think I posted it in the Wolf King Customs Facebook page where I said, hey, if you're looking to pick up some extra figures for fodder, can I suggest that you grab a Gonks and a Thump and a Thwick and what else did I say? Cavern Dwarf. I listed all of those, and I said, and there's also an accessory from one of those figures you're gonna want extras of. I was clearly talking about the turtle shell shield. So this turtle shell shield that comes with the Thwick Goblin figure, if you've got extras of these, absolutely hang on to them because they're going to be a lot of fun to build these out with. But one thing that's cool too is this is on a Gonks body, which I really, really like because the Gonks body has this really long neck. So a little bit of history. The 2.0 figures where the goblins are in, the Advent of Decay line, or wave, I should say, versus the 1.0 figures that we got initially, their necks are different. The holes under the heads for 2.0 are different than 1.0 figures. So the Gonks figure, which is where this body came from, that's obviously a 1.0 body. But they wanted to put a goblin head on it, which had a 2.0 neck port. So they created this adapter, and it actually only comes with Gonks at this point. The only figure that has this neck adapter, this particular style, is Gonks. And it's a little bit different. This is a Cavern Dwarf. The normal dwarf neck is a little bit different than what you have on Gonks. Gonks' neck is much, much longer. So I actually painted it the same color as the turtle head, and it gives him that really elongated type neck look that I think looks really fun for a turtle. But one thing that's cool too here is that head totally works on a goblin body as well. So you put those feet and you put that head on a goblin body, and it absolutely, I think, works just as well. And that's intentional because you want a little sneak reveal? Okay. So I shared this today. Now, these parts that you see here, this snapping turtle head, these feet, and this war club, these are all going to be available from Wolf King Customs very soon as part of their sneak peek sale. I'll talk more about that sale shortly. I said that this character was conceived as the bad character. So when I wrote this story of the Akupara, it's from a storyline, a wave, whatever you want to call it, a series called War of the Akupara. And I imagined it as being this ancient race, and there's internal strife in that race. The Akupara leader, this character that has led this race, really, really well for so many years. He's peace loving. He doesn't want to go to war. He wants there to be calm and peace with those around him. But certainly there are those in his race. There are those in his tribe or whatever you want to call it that don't agree with that. They believe that they should be a more aggressive race, so there's become conflict. And I imagine this character as the main kind of young upstart that's going to try to dethrone the leader of the Akupara. So this I really imagine on a dwarf body. I imagine the bad guys on a dwarf body. The reason I have this goblin body here, and this is a thump body. So that's a Gonk's body. The only thing I did was paint the neck, swap the feet, pop the head on, and obviously put the turtle shell on. This is a thump body, which I like for this custom as well, because it's got almost that rusty type look. The reason I have this is not only so I could show you that, but so I could show you this. This has not been shown anywhere yet, but I'm going to give you all a sneak peek tonight. So this piece is part of the larger War of the Akupara series. Well, those will be available very soon, next week. These are going to come out probably next year in 2021 with the rest of the sale, with the rest of this stuff. So this is the second turtle head that was designed, and this one is more of like a tortoise style head. So you can see, as opposed to that evil snapping turtle type look, this has got that ancient kind of tortoise type look to it. And you can also see this really cool sword, that this is one of the weapons. So I said that the weapons were kind of conceived, that they could be a fill-in for, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Well, there's your Leonardo sword. And it's really cool. It's got this, I painted it to look like, wood, and it's got all of these sharp teeth. Now, this is literally one of the first prints that came off the printer. Some of the teeth didn't print up here, but it's still, the fact that it's such an organic piece, it still works really, really well. I really dig. So you look at them together, and I just think that as a pair, look how cool that is. Right? Another close-up here so you can see that. Do this one again. So again, super excited to get these out to everybody. I've obviously saw the renders from Walter DeMarco months and months ago on these. I've had these prints in my hand for a little while, so I'm super excited that they are going to finally be made available. So before I go on to the next piece here, actually, this is kind of fun too. So you can see on the feet, one of the things, and remember I said that there were some changes that needed to be made. This is one of them. So if you look at the feet, right, you can see that there's like a rim of armor at the top of the feet. And I really like that because it transitions from the lower leg armor into the foot really, really well. And if you look on Mythic Legion's figures, existing Mythic Legion's figures, their feet, they have that rim. Spin them around to show the shells. Yeah, I mean, the shells are literally just Mythic Legion's. Let me see. So the shells are just the Mythic Legion's turtle shell shields. And all I did on this one is I actually wrapped a strap around it. So I could do this if I wanted. So I think that looks cool. And actually that strap just, all this is it's just pegged right in. So that strap, I just wrapped it right around, fits perfectly, and this just pegs right back in there. And when this actually comes out, what's interesting is the storyline I wrote is that, because I mean, these are turtles in armor with shields, with shells that are clearly not, like, they're not in the shells. So originally when I wrote the story, I was kind of thinking about, like, well, why would they still have these shells? Why aren't they actually living in their shells? So I conceived it that this race is born in these shells, but they get to a point that they grow out of them. And what they do is they, put on regular armor, but these shells are like heirlooms and they keep it with them. They strap them to their backs and they wear them as a symbol of honor. That's why I put the crossed belts on their chest, almost like it's strapped on with that. Well, I also wrote that an Akupara who is disgraced has his shell taken from him and he has to survive and live without that shell. And I wrote that story specifically so if you don't have a turtle shell or if you don't have enough, you could actually still use an Akupara and not have a shell, and there be storyline that explains why there's no shell. Now, of course, that's just my interpretation. These are parts that you can do whatever you want with. You can make them however you want. You can conceive your own stories, but that is some of the storyline that I had conceived for it. And there's more stuff. I gave you a sneak peek tonight of this turtle here, of the good heroic turtle. When this does get launched next year, you will absolutely, there are some additional parts. There were developed some additional weapons, some other cool accessories that will go with it as well. But in the meantime, sneak peek sales. So the plan right now from Len is that their sneak peek sale will happen next Wednesday. And there are some things you do want to know about that sale. He's going to post on his website, but I can just give you a heads up that it's meant to be a very limited sale. Wolf King Customs, they don't limit, for instance, their unpainted parts. When they do a sale, it runs for a week, and they're like, hey, however many get ordered is what we're going to print and what we're going to sell. They limit the amount of painted pieces only because they've got to be produced by a painter, so there's a limit that anyone's going to want to do. This particular sale, the reality is there's a big sale coming up in October. There's a really fun sale. There's a lot of stuff that's been in the works for a while. You've heard me talk about wolves. The wolves are coming in October. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming to Wolf King in October. And just kind of because the way the sales ran, like the last sale, the artist sale that had a bunch of cool stuff, that went a little late. Like that actually bled into September. So when he was looking at his calendar, he's like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to have time to do all this stuff and do a big September sale and be ready to do the October sale. So what he decided to do was, instead of doing like a big release in September, was to do this sneak peek sale, exactly like what we have here, where it's like, hey, this is part of our larger, concept that we came up with, but let's release this early. Let's put this out so people actually have access to it. These are all going to come back. When the Akupara set gets sold, all of these parts are going to be available again. So really what this sale is kind of early access to these pieces. So because of that, it needs to be a tight sale. He has set some very strict, fairly low numbers for all the parts. There will be both painted and unpainted. I am going to paint this head and these feet. I'm not painting the weapons. I don't like selling painted weapons because I'm always afraid that people are going to get them and they're going to play with them and put them in hands and they're going to wear the paint out and they're going to feel like they were, they didn't get their money's worth because they got some paint wear on the handle or something. So weapons aren't something that the shop has offered for sale, but I am going to paint the heads and feet. But they are going to be very, very limited numbers. So you can check the website, wolfkingcustoms.com, for more information on that. But those parts will be available absolutely in limited numbers. If you want early access to them, you'll be some of the first to have access to playing around with them. And then they will be back next year. One of the other cool things that's going to be available are these fun frog parts that Len calls the lockwoggles. So these are a funny story. So I posted this the other day as well, and you actually might have seen a whole bunch of different people post these guys over the weekend. So these pieces, and you've got this frog head. You can see he's got these fun. I'm gonna take his loin piece off so you can see his feet a little better. But he's got these really fun frog feet there as well. Really cool. You can see they got the rim of armor on top of those two. There are also some weapons on here. This cool kind of lily pad shield, this spear topper, that this is actually just, this is a Mythic Legion spear that I just snapped, this Mythic Legion spear, and it literally fits right in that topper. And by the way, if anyone's like, well, I don't want to break a Mythic Legion spear, if you're a customizer, you're probably swimming in spares. You can probably spare one. And this also, this cool sword. This cool, and then you've seen this as well. It's got like some bamboo effects in it. And it's interesting because when I got these parts, I mean, months ago now, and that's why you saw some people posting it, because Len had been developing this for a while, and he sent them out to a few people to see what they would do with them, to get their feedback, because they actually did go through a number of revisions. So like, for instance, the original feet that he had designed were poorly done. They definitely weren't going to work. So he actually worked with Walter DeMarco of Mass Customs to do these feet. Those are the only parts on the Lock Woggle that Walter worked on. All the other stuff is, a Wolf King Originals. But it's funny, I felt really bad for Len, because when he first was working on these, I didn't even know anything about this. This was back before the Kitsune, right around that time the Kitsune was starting. He was starting to work on these, and he hadn't shown them to anybody yet. He hadn't released them. And then My Action Figure Customs released their Swamp Hoppers. So immediately he was like bummed, because, I mean, part of doing this, I mean, when you do stuff like orcs and skeletons and, ogres, it's inevitable, or dwarves, it's inevitable that other companies are going to do them as well, because they're generic fantasy tropes. You can't be the only one doing dwarves because it's a popular fantasy trope. But doing frogs, that was something that he kind of thought, he'd be able to do. And what's cool about it is, at first you're obviously bummed, because you're like, I don't want to be seen like I'm copying anybody, but they're so different. The Swamp Hoppers from Action Figure Customs, they're much more Toad-like. They're very, very detailed, very, very different look. But additionally, I mean, as Mythic Legions fans, we love variety. So after he kind of got over that initial point, then he said, you know what, I want to keep pushing this. I want to keep developing this. And actually a lot of the weapons came out of that, about wanting to push the project further. What else can I add besides that head? Let me redo the feet. And ultimately what he came up with was this. And it's funny, because when he first shipped it to me, I'm going to be totally honest with you, I wasn't really into it. He shipped me these and I'm like, I don't know if I really dig these parts. But the minute I started playing with them, it was like total change. They are so much fun. The minute I started playing with them, I was like, these characters, you can do some really, really fun stuff with them. And they add some really cool variety to the display. So once I got some paint on it, I was a believer. My opinion of them completely shifted from one of kind of, I'm not sure how this would fit into my collection, to absolutely loving. So much so that I made multiple. So this is another figure I haven't shown yet, but this is actually, and I showed my kind of Lock Woggle Knight first, but this is actually the first custom that I did with those parts. So this, if you know, once again, my love for Dungeons & Dragons, this is a Dungeons & Dragons race called a Bullywug. So a Bullywug is like these frog-like looking characters. And this, when I do post this, I'll post the D&D art that I got it from. But it's a classic Dungeons & Dragons race. So the minute I saw those parts, I said, you know what? I think I'm going to make a Bullywug out of them. I created this recipe. And even though I said, I don't know how it's going to fit in with my Mythics, I display him alongside my Boggoblins and my big drowned ogre. Displays perfect. Absolutely perfect. Adds that other element. Obviously with this one here, I did a little bit more, dry brushing, and, tried to have some more detail in some of the paints. Whereas on the Lock Woggle Knight, I was inspired by a tree frog on this one. So I think it's called a red-eyed tree frog. So I really wanted it to be bright, bold colors. And I actually also created this helmet for it. So this is, talk about weird fodder parts. I bought that toy line DC Primal Age, I think it's called, where it's like DC characters reimagined as like, I don't know, cavemen and warriors, and it's a weird line. But there was a Batcave playset for that, and I got one on clearance to use in photos. So some of the photos that I take that almost looks like Castle Grayskull in the back, it's actually the Batcave that I repainted to use for photos. And it came with this weird, like, I don't know, it's almost like a fighting dummy. It's like a wooden fighting dummy. And the fighting dummy had this helmet. And it's a bat helmet, so it had bat ears. I shaved the bat ears down, drilled a little hole in the back so I could put that plume in. And I created a helmet for my Lockwoggle Knight. Now on this one, I actually painted all these pieces to look like metal. Because I knew everybody else was painting these very organic. This shield is awesome. It's like a giant lily pad with a handle in back. And what's cool is you can position, you position the Lockwoggle with the shield. And unfortunately, the shield and spare is going to be available at a later date, but you can position it where it's like the spare is kind of like coming through that little cut in the shield. It was designed specifically to do that. Very, very cool. But this is another example of parts. And again, these were available long, long ago. They were conceived and they've been absorbed into the Woodhaven series. So if you remember the Woodhaven series that started with the Badgerines, and it was called the Coliseum at Woodhaven. Well, Woodhaven was conceived as this like kind of community of these anthropomorphic characters. And the Coliseum was the first series in that group where it was pitting the Badger versus the Wolverine. So the next one that was conceived was called the Swamps of Woodhaven. Thinking about the other kinds of, not climates, but environments that would be part of this community. So we thought it would be fun to do swamps, and we had a couple swamp type characters. Ironically, the turtles were not part of that. They were a completely separate thing, but they totally work in the Swamps of Woodhaven as well. But that's where the Lockwoggles were conceived. So there is going to be a larger Swamps of Woodhaven series that comes out down the road. There's some other characters that are available in that. But to start with, they're going to have the Lockwoggle head available, the Lockwoggle feet, and that really cool sword. Those are going to be available to start. The other parts like the shield, the spear topper, and there's actually a blowgun as well. That's pretty cool. Those will all be available at a later date. Nick saying that's an awesome helmet backstory. You should mythologize it into an in-character version of the helmet story. That sounds good. Nick, thanks for doing the show. Always a highlight of the week. My pleasure. So a couple other things I want to show before we go tonight. So back to the turtles for a minute. And actually, let me just finish. I'm going to wrap the conversation on Wolf King. So check the website. There's going to be more information on the sneak peek sale. Turtle parts will be available. Lockwoggle parts will be available. There's one more piece that hasn't been revealed yet that is not a critter. So if you don't dig the animal stuff, I mean, first off, you're wrong because they're awesome. But to each his own. If you don't dig the animal stuff, there is going to be another non-animal character that's part of that sale. So you'll have something to go after as well. Once again, quantities will be limited. That's kind of like, I guess, the theme for the night. Quantities are limited because we're going to see that in Exodus. And we'll see it in the sneak peek sale as well. But ultimately, it should be a lot of fun. So check their website out. More information will be forthcoming when Len puts it up. But one thing I wanted to address is with the Akupara, Thwick is still available. So you can absolutely buy a Thwick Goblin figure. If you do that, first of all, if you don't have Thwick yet, get him. He's awesome. He's such a cool goblin. He's one of my favorites. if you get him, you can save the shield to use for your Aquapara. You may think like, hey, I don't want to buy him just to get that turtle shell shield, but I really like that turtle shell shield. Well, if you buy a Thwick, here's something else you can do that's cool. Now, I actually earlier today shot a video about this. So on Wednesdays, if you follow my channel, you'll notice that I publish twice a week. So I put, this is Wednesday nights. This happens live, and then after the live show, obviously the replay is available on the channel. Additionally, every weekend, I post like a short customizing tutorial video on like a specific topic, like how to paint eyes, or last week's was talking about like how to photograph customs, and I showed some dioramas and stuff like that. So I shoot those on Wednesday mornings. What I do is I set up my area here, and I set up whatever materials I'm going to use for my short tutorial video. I record that, put all the parts away, and then I set up what I'm going to talk about that night, and then I just don't post the video I recorded until later in the week. But I recorded one today talking about this guy. So this fun little frost goblin, and you've certainly seen me do frost goblins in the past. This is nothing new, but this was a fun little recipe that I put together for two reasons. I put it together to talk about in the video, to show a little recipe, but I also put it together because it's a Thwick. So if you buy a Thwick figure to use that turtle shell, this is a cool idea of what you can do with the remaining figure. And it's super easy. Now, my version here has a couple upgrades on them. I used a pair of these large feet, these large spiky-like feet, because I like my frost goblins to have those big, giant, hunky feet. Optional, if you don't have any feet like that, you can absolutely just keep the original goblin feet on him. I also swapped out some of his weapons. I gave him this kind of like orc axe and this orc sword. But ultimately, you could have the regular weapons as well. Again, if you're a customizer, you probably have all this stuff in your fodder bin. But this was super easy. I won't spoil everything because there is going to be a video going on about it. But it's a lot of fun. I had a good time painting it. This helmet comes right off. You can pop this right off to make that head easier to paint. And this is really, really cool. So if you do buy a Thwick, check out my video that I'm going to post this Saturday. It'll show you how to create this. You can create this out of the Thwick figure. There's really no other parts on it. It's a Thwick-based body, just a couple other things from the fodder bin. You could totally do this, and he doesn't use the turtle shell, so that'll give you that turtle shell shield left over to use for one of those Aquapara. Cool? Awesome. Any questions before I go on? What are we talking about here? So let me read some comments. Yeah, so Mina saying, I wonder what the lifespan on that race is. Yeah, I imagine them to be very, very long-lived, like a tortoise being around for a long time. Actually, it's interesting. The colors I used on this particular character, those like golds that I used on it, there was a tortoise that, I don't know if it was the San Diego Zoo, that his species was endangered, and he ended up breeding, basically saving the species. And that was the picture I used. It was that particular turtle. I can't remember his name. It's a tortoise. I can't remember his name. But I used those colors as the base to paint him. And it's cool. You might not see it on camera here, but there is actually a little bit of like gold metallics on both of these figures that gives that little bit of a sheen. I really like that a lot. Josh, will a version of the shell be printed? I will not, or Wolf King will not be printing shells. Obviously, we're not going to do something that Four Horsemen have already done. Someone else, I think Drew asked me today if there's going to be shells created as well. If there ever were shells created, they would be totally different from what they have here. But I really like using existing parts as much as possible because those already exist. There was no shells actually being printed. Rosedale saying, I love how you come with backstories for your customs. Yeah, I talked about this a few weeks ago when I was talking about character creation. It helps me create the characters. It helps me make design decisions along the way. It's an essential part of my, my process. Anthony saying, love the frogs. The shield's such a great piece. The blowgun is my favorite part. Yeah, the blowgun I have one. That's the only part I haven't painted yet. It would look great with the bullywug. I don't know why I just haven't done it yet. I've been focused on other projects. Rosedale saying, I was just thinking of the bullywugs on the D&D cartoon. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Joe saying that the Lockwoggle parts scale well with Marvel Legends is also. Yeah, I believe Joe, I've said this before, he does a lot of fun figures, a lot of fun customs that use like non-Mythic Legions bodies. He's done some of those. Yeah, Joe, if DC was like He-Man figures, yeah, those Primal Age, they very much were like Masters of the Universe DC crossover, like unintentionally. Not like, I know there's like a Master of the Universe like wrestling crossover figures. That's totally intentional. The DC Primal Age stuff was not intentional. Like it wasn't meaning to be He-Man and Skeletor. It just looked like that. Yeah, whatever. Rosedale saying, I would love to see an armored porcupine. That's an interesting idea. I don't know if I've ever considered porcupines. I have a whole list of animals that I'm considering doing. I've mentioned this on the show before, but the rabbits are in development right now. So just like there's a whole series of turtles, there's a whole series of rabbits that we're working on. I mentioned a few minutes ago that the wolves are going to be available in October. So there's plenty of critters coming. And I actually do have a project I worked on that the parts are, the designs are done, the files are done, they just haven't been printed yet, and we won't see them until early 2021. I did take a break from critters just because I felt like I was doing so many animals. I was like, you know what, I want to do something else fun. I talked about doing a series of genie-type djinn characters, so those are in development as well. I mentioned before the amount of stuff, and this is just things that I'm working on personally. Wolf King they work with, Emil Wickman. They're doing stuff with, Stephen Bashotti right now. Obviously, Walter of Mass Customs is doing some of his original parts through them as well. I'm a very, very small part. My ideas are a very small part of what they're doing. So they're going to be doing some really cool stuff in 2021. Speaking of cool stuff in both 2020 and 2021, let's talk about Planetary Dog Toys. Excuse me. It amazes me. I try not to drink during the show. It amazes me how I can literally rattle for 90 minutes and not need a drink. Tonight I needed one. I ordered some parts from Planetary Dog Toys recently. They came in on Monday. I started painting them yesterday, finished them today because I couldn't put them down because they were so much fun to work on. I will say this. As much as I love working on parts that I had, that I had a say in bringing to life, Saba and Julie's parts from Planetary Dog Toys, I gotta say, they're probably my favorites to paint. The sculptures that they do, they absolutely get it. The lines they cut into like the eyes and everything, as a painter, they are an absolute joy to work on. So much detail. These particular ones that they put out recently, the detail on them is absolutely stunning. So this is one that I just finished today that I'm absolutely digging so much. So I talk about ogres on here all the time. This is a piece that uses a couple things, and I'm actually going to post this on my Instagram tomorrow. Like I said, I got him in on Monday, started them yesterday, finished them today, and as soon as I was done, I was like, I got to take some photos of this. I got to bring them out because I want to share this with everybody, and I'm sharing it here early. But this is a Balthar, the tower base figure, that I actually replaced his feet with some from a 12-inch Thorin Oakenshield. So it's a 12-inch the Hobbit Thorin Oakenshield figure from Asmus Toys. I got some of these fur and these boots because I saw there was a person on eBay that was selling like these fur wrappings that go on the existing boots. And I was considering buying those, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. I saw these and I liked the fact that they had different boots. So I grabbed those and I didn't even know what I was going to use it, but they ended up on this guy here. But the big piece here, big, pardon the pun here, is obviously this giant torso. So this giant torso and this custom head that are both from Planetary Dog Toys. So look at that beast. Now, you've seen this body before. They released this body originally for the 6-inch scale. And actually, there's a 6-inch scale version of it right there that we'll look at in a minute. So, yeah, saying Max Bird sells the Legion soft goods. Yeah, I do have one of them, not the fur ones. I have something else, and they're really cool. It's like a robe. It's really cool. I like it a lot. But I got that body, and it's not cheap. This is the most expensive piece on Planetary Dog Toy Shop. It's like $62 just for the body, which that's a leap. I mean, that's the figures themselves cost like $55 originally. So to pay more than original retail on the figure just for that torso, that was something that I had to step back for a second and say, am I willing to do that? But like I've said before, and part of what you're doing here is supporting independent artists, thinking about, what Julie and Saba put into this work to design and create these things. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the leap. I'm going to order that. I only ordered one, then I ordered a couple different heads, and I'm so happy I did. It's awesome. It looks so cool. And this particular head, if you don't have one of these heads, whether you have them, he sold these both in the dwarf scale and in the ogre scale. They have so much detail. The lines on the hair, everything about it, it's an absolutely fabulous sculpture. I actually posted some pictures earlier today on the Cabal of me painting this piece and a couple others. I can't say enough about the quality of these. They just look so great. Another thing that I'm going to show, and actually the last thing I have to show tonight. No, I do have one more thing to show. I forgot to show something on the turtle. Well, I'll come back to that because it's funny. I think we talked previously on another episode or earlier week about coming back to customs over and over again and constantly, updating them. That's something that I do all the time. And I think it's important as a customizer. You put something on your shelf. I mentioned, previously that when you finish a custom, put it down for 24 to 48 hours, then come back to it with some fresh eyes and actually look at it and ask yourself, is it done? Is there something else I missed? Could I have gone a little further with something? I think that's really important, but I also think it's helpful to be open to totally updating that custom over time. And one figure that I've updated over time, quite a few times actually, I think this is my 4th kind of major update on it, is my Dwarven Bard. So I love, using different character classes in my Mythic Legions display. And when I say character classes, I'm talking about like Dungeons and Dragons. You've got your clerics and your wizards and your rogues or thieves, fighters. You have all these different classes, and a lot of those are super tropey. But then there's some others that aren't as popular, like a bard. And I love the idea of having bard characters. So when I thought about having a bard, and I've done a number of bards, but when I thought about a Dwarven Bard, I was like, okay, what would a Dwarven Bard play? And obviously, a Dwarven Bard would play bagpipes. So this is a figure that has gone through so many different iterations, and this is just the latest one. And that's what I'm saying, that I think it's important to revisit your figures and try new things. And his little hat comes off too. So when I originally had done this, a dwarven bagpiper. It used a totally different head from a customizer called Love Niddleness. And it was a head that, it had the reddish hair. It actually had a mohawk. And it was before the Torgon Redfin figure came out. And I liked it. Yeah, I used a barbarian chest on it and everything, so I wanted him to be bare. And I had gotten, at the time, an old WWF Roddy Piper figure because it had bagpipes and it had like a kilt. And then I saw Patrick Boyle do a dwarf bard that used the pieces from an Austin Powers Fat Bastard figure, an old McFarlane Toys toy. And I was like, that is perfect, because it was better quality in terms of the bagpipes and the tartan that he was wearing. So I ended up buying that figure and integrating those parts on. Then when Torgon came out, I updated the figure completely, and I used a Torgon body for my bagpiper. So I went from a different build that was kind of cobbled together, that was like a barbarian chest and arms with King Bromden legs. I kept updating it. So I'm like on the third version of this. When Planetary Dog Toys released this fat belly, I bought that and I painted that and I added that to a Torgon figure. And this is the latest version. Using this head, when I saw him post this head with this little cap on it, I just said, I absolutely have to buy that for my Dwarven bagpiper. And I absolutely dig it. I absolutely dig it. It looks so good. I painted this today, and it's so much fun. And one of the cool things about Planetary Dog Toys is a lot of what he does is release the same piece with different facial expressions. So you can get like a head, like this big head I have here has got a smile on it, which is what I thought was fun. But you can get that same head that isn't smiling. You can get that exact same head without the beard. You can get this head where he's like winking. There's a lot of variations. You can get different hats for him. So that's one of the things that I think a lot of people appreciate about Planetary Dog Toys is if you like a sculpture, you've got some different options for the facial expression that you think is going to work best for the project that you have in mind. Very, very cool. Again, super excited to get those. Check out my Instagram tomorrow. I'm going to post pictures of this big guy. I haven't named him yet. I got to write the little write-up for him tonight after I get off this video here. But super, super cool. And that is what is on my desk. So the last thing I'm going to show before I answer a few more questions, I started talking about the rim on the top of the turtle feet here, but I never finished that thought. That was a late addition. The first feet that were developed, that were designed, I have the only pair that were printed right here, and they looked like this. They did not have the rim of armor on top, which looked a little awkward to me because it almost looked like a character wearing turtle slippers, because the way that the edges are, the ankle goes right into that foot, and it really looked to me like he was wearing slippers. So as soon as I got these in, as cool as the sculpture was, this is an example, a little behind the scenes kind of look, where you get these in. Walter did the prints, and this wasn't something that I thought about to ask, but I had kind of, conceived of the way I wanted the feet to look, and I, some designs. He sculpts it all up. Len prints it, sends it to me, and once I use it, I said, yeah, that's not exactly what I'm picturing. That looks a little awkward. So it's really, really funny, and I do have this one pair, so at some point I am going to make a custom with someone wearing some giant turtle slippers, because that's what it looks like to me completely. But I do think that the final product with the rim of armor is a much superior look. So that's what I've got for tonight. Again, a lot of cool stuff to look forward to. We are living and collecting in an amazing, amazing time, and it's only going to get better. There's so much cool stuff on the agenda as we get towards the end of the year. There's big stuff brewing. we are going to have an embarrassment of riches as Legions fans, let me tell you. So I'm going to answer a few questions before we call it a night, so hit me up in the chat. Rosedale saying, I opened 2 female Iron Knight Legion builders and Lord Dragool since the last show. Very cool. So obviously you are enjoying them. You've got 8 more on the way. Very, very cool. Yeah, Lord Dragool's a really cool figure. It's funny. So Alberto Arribas, if you check out, he's the guy that does those awesome, powerful videos, those video reviews. We just posted one on the website the other day. He just did one for Lord Dragool. And my son, actually, who collects Mythic Legions, he came down the other day and he's like, hey, I just got notified that there's that new video. And he actually watched the video. He didn't even want Lord Dragool. He had no idea that it was connected to Hordak. He didn't grow up with Master Universe the way I did. So he didn't make that connection. But he just thought it was a cool looking figure and he liked the review. He thought it was really funny. So he came down. He's like, do you have any of those Lord Dragool figures coming in? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, can I have one? Okay, I'll take care of you. So those reviews work. They help sell product. Nick saying some funny things about a Bard character. Spent all his gold on outfits, put all his points into disguise, bluff and diplomacy, and would just come up with disguises and play people. Yeah, that's some of the most fun. I mean, and I've, when you're getting started with like Dungeons and Dragons, it's obviously it's easier to play, some of the, like a fighter. I mean, that's an easy character to play. But I know that I've got friends. I haven't played in many, many years. I've played a few games with my kids to get them started, but I haven't played in years. But I've got friends that play, and they talk all the time that being some of those really outlandish characters, it's a lot of fun. Characters that have severe flaws, severe limitations. It's definitely fun to play that. And the description of that Bard you just mentioned sounds awesome. Anthony's saying, I can't believe how fast this episode went. I know we had a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight. Tonight was one of those shows where, because there's some weeks where I sit down, because I'll start thinking about next week's show tonight after this show. I kind of have to put it out of my mind a little bit because I do need to get to bed at some point. And, so I have to start. I am thinking about it a little bit while I'm breaking everything down. And then over the course of the next few days into the weekend, I'll really start planning out the show and thinking what I'm going to talk about. And there's some weeks that are a challenge. Absolutely. There's some times where I have a good idea for a show, but I have customs that I haven't finished yet that need to be part of that show. Tonight's was simple because I knew I wanted to talk about the Aquapara. And then I was like, well, I'll also talk about the Lockwoggles. And then I was like, well, I'll show the Frost Goblin because that ties in here. And then I got this stuff in. And I was like, well, I'll show that. And then we spent all the time up front talking about Exodus. So tonight's show just came together, a lot to talk about. And I got to tell you, there's going to be more shows like tonight. Because, again, I know I keep saying it, but stuff's a brewing. Stuff is a brewing. Let's see. Josh saying, what's the time frame for the rabbits? They're in development now, so they probably won't be done the sculpting phase for another month or so. And then it'll be sometime in 2021. Honestly, there's a lot going on towards the end of the year. So I know there's a big sale in October that is very monster themed. I've talked about the wolves. That's going to be very monster themed. Quite honestly, I'm not sure what's coming after that. There might be a little bit of a break going on as we kind of, refigure out what projects we want to do. One thing that I do think you're going to see is less sales that are super, super themed. So, for instance, when they did the Badgerine sale, if you weren't into animals, there probably wasn't a lot in there for you because it was the badger head and the cat head and then like some weapons. I think one of the things that he's going to start doing, and you're even seeing it here, is starting to spread things out. So even like with the turtles, instead of releasing one whole set, dedicating 1 month to just selling, okay, these turtle parts, maybe putting a turtle part in this sale and then the other parts in the next sale, one sale here, one sale here. So you can start to integrate other kinds of things as well. So the idea is that at any given sale, you'll have a variety of parts. So if you're into dwarves or you're into vampires or critters or whatever, there's going to be more variety in subsequent sales. That's something that Len was talking to me about that he thinks he wants to start doing, which I think makes a lot of sense. The marketer in me totally digs like tight themes, but I also understand spreading things out and having some more variety. So that's a little bit of a long-winded answer, but I would say sometime in early 2021, the rabbits are a bunch. There's a bunch of pieces. The rabbits are going to be multiple unique heads, multiple characters, a bunch of stuff. So the rabbits are absolutely going to get spread across probably 2 different sales. But there's some really, really cool stuff, and there's some wacky stuff too. Like there's stuff. Look. Is there going to be a rabbit that you can use as a samurai? Yes. There's going to be a rabbit you can use as a samurai because I like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Ugasaki is very, very cool, and I know that he existed before Turtles, so I don't need to know that. I'm aware. It's not going to look like that character, but it's fun. Just like it's fun that you could fudge in and make your own versions of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with these parts. Same thing with the rabbit. So there will absolutely be some samurai style flavor, but there's going to be some other cool stuff in that as well, including some really wacky stuff that I have planned for the villain. So that's going to be cool. I got no more Mythic Legions, but that might change on Friday. Love those turtles. Yeah, there's some really cool stuff coming. I'm excited. Will Legion Builders be part of the coming sale? I don't remember if you said or didn't say. I did not say because I cannot reveal what will be available in the sale, but I did say that there'll be price points like $22 and $35 and $50. There'll be a variety of different kinds of figures. So that's me kind of answering your question without answering your question. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. Like it's a warehouse sale. Inevitably, there's going to be some Legion builders that are going to make it into that sale. Yeah, I'm going bonkers inside over Friday's sale. Yeah, it's absolutely. There's going to be a lot. It's going to be fun. Like I said, go into it though. Just hear me out. Go into it with the right mindset. Don't try to do too much. Try to get 1 or 2 pieces that you're really excited for, and then go in and at that second, time or third time or whatever, grab some other stuff. So that round, if you miss out, if you get carjacked, at least you got some really cool stuff coming. So with that, we're coming up on 9 o'clock. It went fast, but I am exhausted. It has been a very, very long day. It has been a very, very long week as we get ready for Friday. If there are problems with the site, please be gentle. Please be kind. Please understand that everyone working on this wants it to work as well as you want it to work. And we are doing everything we can to make sure that happens. So fingers crossed. Like I said, there could not be more of a stress test for the new website, but I have high hopes. With that, if you enjoy the show, please let me know in the comments. Give it a like. Certainly subscribe to the channel and help spread the word. Other collectors, whether they're Mythic Legions or otherwise, they think they would enjoy me rattling on for 90 minutes each week about Mythic Legions and custom figures. Send them our way because we are here every Wednesday night. Same Mythic channel, same Mythic time. Until next week, I can't wait for that conversation. Good night, everyone. See you Friday for Exodus.